A pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision. Ries. Welcome to the Stitched for Success podcast. I am your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, daughter, entrepreneur, author, friend, and lifelong learner. For over 8 years, I was trapped in corporate America and dreamed of escaping. I took the leap. With just $700 and an idea, we grew Zeus's Closet to a multi-million-dollar business. I have employed dozens of other people along the way. The road has not been easy. I have battle wounds, bruises, and scars to prove it. And on this podcast, I share lessons learned from my failures and successes. You will also hear from other business owners who have become stitched for success. We almost have 2/3 of this year behind us, and 2020 has been one of the most unusual, unprecedented, and most unforgettable years of my life. I mean, how many times have you heard the word unprecedented this year? There has been so much happening in the world and in this country. Things that none of us could have seen coming, of course. If someone would have told me that I would have to figure out how to run a business while socially distancing and managing virtual school for our children, as well as cooking and planning all dinners and going back to cleaning our house while still managing to get some sleep, I would have thought, what are you talking about? You've lost your mind. But that is where I am. So right now, if I had to give a title to this year, I would name it the year of the pivot for myself. I've had to pivot in so many ways. When coronavirus came to all of our doorsteps, we had to quickly figure out in the business how we would continue to serve our customers. We have 2 retail locations that had to immediately close, but we still needed production to keep working because we still had orders to fulfill. We cut team members down to part-time so they could still work, but on different shifts, so they were socially distanced, and we had to focus all of our marketing efforts and shift that to our online stores. In May, once we were told that Georgia could open back up, we did so very cautiously. We opened by appointments at both locations. So the store is now back to being busy, but without the same walk-in traffic as in the past. The cool thing is that most of our clients who book appointments actually end up making a purchase. We have a lot less window shopping, and we as a team are able to plan our day and task around those appointments instead of being unexpectedly interrupted in the middle of a project. This was one of the issues that some of our past team members complained about on a regular. I believe these unexpected interruptions actually sometimes led to balls being dropped. However, before this pandemic, we could not see our way around minimizing the interruptions. Now, at this point, we will probably go back to our doors being opened, and at some point, masks won't be required. However, I think due to this pivot that we had to make, we will think about it a little bit differently. Another thing that has changed for me in this year is I told you all last week that we were meeting with a coach. And we've had a coach in the past, and honestly, it was not a great experience. We spent a great deal of money for coaching, but did not really see results, did not really get the ROI that we desired. This coach, however, we met with earlier this week, has gotten us to really buckle down and think about what we want our lives and business to look like 10 years from now. And this was a little difficult for me at first, but what I realized during these past few months is that I don't want to go back to the go, go, go of my life. Before the start of this pandemic, I literally ran from work to picking up kids to taking them to activities because though I do have help and have had help, I would prefer to be with the kids if I'm not at work or at the office. And I want to be a part of their activities and know what they're doing in swimming and gymnastics or whatever they may be a part of. But what I've realized is that I don't want to go back to that. Our business has got to pivot from only providing a product that is highly customized and require a lot of hands-on attention. So we're in the process of making another pivot in our business. Hopefully you will continue to listen to the podcast so you can stay on this new journey with me. It will be fun but challenging, just the thing that makes business or being in business exciting. I learned in these past few months that I want to spend more time at home, more than just sleeping and getting up, going to work, and getting the kids to school. I actually want to enjoy them while they're still at home. I only have 8 years left with one of them before she's off to college. So this year has made me prioritize my goals, prioritize them differently. The vision for our business remains the same, but we have determined that the strategy of getting there will have to change. So stick around, join me on this journey. We don't have it all figured out yet, so it's sure to be interesting. Another pivot I've had to make is going back to cooking and cleaning my own house. And though I've done it for years, a couple of years ago, though, we decided to get some help because Ethan and I determined that we would rather spend time with our kids instead of spending time folding clothes. I often found that I would be doing housework and the children would be running around me. So we were in the same space. We were still in the same time, but we weren't actually spending quality time together. And so I wanted to change that and ended up getting a young lady who was in college to help me with things around the house, and it really made a huge difference. However, the past few months have been different, but good in a way, because children should learn to fold clothes and put them away. So that's been a pivot. My kids have learned to put their own clothes in the washer and the dryer, and my oldest can fold her stuff and put it away. My youngest, he's learning. He's not very good, and it kind of drives me a little crazy when he doesn't fold it neatly, but it's okay. He's learning, and that is a life skill that they need. This being the year of the pivot, I have a few more. Virtual school. I've learned that I've just got to go with the flow this year, because with school, it's a little bit unpredictable. We weren't sure if they were going back at first, and then would it be virtual? Would it be a hybrid? Well, they're virtual, which is fine. It's working. But earlier this week, Zoom went down for a while on Monday on most of the East Coast. There was nothing we could do about it. Teachers had to pivot, and so did the parents. So again, I'm learning to go with the flow, and I've always been a very high-strung, need a plan person, but this year has shown me that you can plan all day long, and things just may not go the way you plan, so you have to be willing to change and pivot. Also, another pivot that I've had to make recently is the last interview that I aired on this podcast was fantastic. It had so much information, but it did not record very well. And I had to spend hours editing it because I was determined to bring you that interview. But I did not want to go back to the person and say, hey, can we re-record this? I just didn't feel that it would have the same emotion, that it would have the same information. And so I spent a lot of time editing. So a pivot that I've made is now going forward, for now anyway, I will be conducting my interviews via Zoom. So I signed up for a paid account, and I'm excited for that pivot. I just wanted to take this episode to share all of the pivoting that I've had to do this year. And I still am very grateful for everything that I have. And I'm grateful that I have the energy and wherewithal to pivot where it's necessary. But I wanted to share it with you because as human beings, and especially as a business owner, you have got to be willing to pivot. I have not always done this easily because we naturally just don't like change. Some people are better at handling it than others, but we kind of all hesitate when change has to be made. I can remember about 5 years ago, a business mentor of ours suggested that we move our retail space into our office space, then rent out the retail space to increase our cash flow. I just couldn't fathom that suggestion. This retail store was our dream. It was beautiful and exactly what I imagined when we moved into the space. However, after putting the emotions aside, what she suggested made sense. We had lots of space that we could use. And you know what ended up being, well, what I thought would not be a good idea ended up being better than I ever predicted. We now attract more clients and customers because our retail space speaks more to our customization qualities, and it speaks more to the general population than primarily serving fraternities and sororities. Our previous retail space highlighted the fraternities and sororities that we served, and so some people would walk in and be very confused. They weren't quite sure if we could do the project that they had. But with our new space, they were no longer confused. They walked in and they knew that we could handle whatever project that they needed us to do at Zeus's Closet. Thus, it opened us up to a larger demographic than previously. So, shout out to that business mentor who helped us see a bigger vision. Don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of the pivot. You're going to have to do it at some point, whether it's your first year in business or your fifth. So, embrace the change, embrace the pivot, and you will continue to grow and prosper. Thank you so much for joining me on the Stitch for Success podcast today. I truly have a love and passion for all things small business. So if you are a budding entrepreneur or just thinking about starting your own business, or if you have been running your business for a few years, I want to help you. So I would love if you could follow me on Instagram at Stitched for Success. Each morning I post an inspirational quote to get your day going and off to a wonderful start. Also, I would love if you would subscribe and rate this podcast. Please share it with a friend. If you have any questions or thoughts, please direct message me via Instagram. It's always a pleasure to have you listen in. Have a great one.